Hello and welcome to Time for God from St Peter's, Bexhill, where we are thinking about Valentine's Day. We're also dog sitting today, so if you hear any strange barks or yelps, it's their comment on what I'm saying. A middle-aged man walked into a post office and stood at the counter enthusiastically writing addresses on bright pink envelopes covered with hearts. He took out a scent bottle and sprayed sweet perfume all over them. The woman on the counter watched and then asked him what he was doing. "I'm sending out 1,000 Valentine's Day cards signed Guess Who," he replied. "Why on earth are you doing that?" she asked. "Because I'm a divorce lawyer," he said. Think about it. This is rather a cynical view of St Valentine's Day, and I hope it is not your experience. So who was St Valentine? The story goes that he was a Roman priest and doctor who suffered martyrdom during the persecution of Christians by the Emperor Claudius II in about 270 AD. Valentine and Claudius were originally good friends, but Valentine performed marriage ceremonies for soldiers at a time when soldiers were not allowed to get married. And when he even tried to convert Claudius II to Christianity, he was imprisoned and sentenced to death. While in jail, he met and fell in love with the jailer's daughter and healed her of blindness. Just before he was executed, he sent her a letter signed, "From your Valentine." This is a great story. But as usual, things are not quite as simple as they seem at first glance. So here are 6 facts, thoughts or conjectures about St Valentine that you might not have known. 1. The St Valentine who inspired the holiday may have actually been 2 different men. The story about Valentine as a priest who was beheaded comes from the 15th century, over 1,000 years after the events it describes. A different account claims Valentine was the Bishop of Terni, who was also martyred by Claudius II on the outskirts of Rome. Because of the similarities of these accounts, they may refer to the same person, or they may be 2 completely different people. Valentine's true identity was questioned as early as the year 496 by Pope Gelasius I, who referred to the martyr and his acts as being known only to God. Enough confusion surrounds the identity of St Valentine that the Church stopped official veneration of him in 1969. In fact, there are about a dozen St Valentines, as well as a pope. The saint we celebrate on Valentine's Day is usually thought of as St Valentine of Rome, in order to differentiate him from all the other St Valentines. The name comes from the Latin Valentinus, which means worthy, strong or powerful, and it was a popular name in the early centuries after Christ. And the official roster of saints shows about a dozen who were named Valentine or some similar variation. The most recent is St Valentine Berrio Ochoa, a Spaniard who served as bishop in Vietnam. He was murdered in 1861, but not canonized until 1988 by Pope John Paul II. Interestingly, the Church of England, along with other Reformed churches, has no way of declaring someone to be or not be a saint. There was even a Pope Valentine, although little is known about him, except that he served a mere 40 days, around about the year 827. 3. St Valentine is the patron saint of engaged couples and happy marriages, as you might expect. Interestingly, he is also the patron saint of beekeepers, epilepsy, the plague, fainting, and travelling. 4. In the early 1800s, the excavation of a catacomb near Rome yielded part of a skeleton and other relics now associated with St Valentine. As was customary, these bits and pieces of the late saint's body were distributed around the world. The skull of St Valentine, now adorned with flowers, is on display in the Basilica of Santa Maria in Cosmedon, Rome. You'll find other bits of St Valentine on display in the Czech Republic, in Ireland, Scotland, France, and even in England, if you want to. 5. Actually, Geoffrey Chaucer may have invented St Valentine's Day. Most famous today for writing the Canterbury Tales, Geoffrey Chaucer wrote another bestseller called Parliament of Fools in about 1375. In it, Chaucer links a tradition of courtly love with the celebration of St Valentine's feast day, an association that seems didn't exist before. He refers to February the 14th as the day birds and humans come together to find a mate. But we know that Chaucer often took liberties with history, placing his characters into fictitious historical contexts that he presented as real. So he may well have invented the holiday we know today. And finally, 6. Because of this abundance of St Valentine's, you can choose to celebrate Valentine's Day quite a few times each year, if you want to. Besides February the 14th, you might decide to celebrate St Valentine of Viterbo on November the 3rd, or maybe you go for St Valentine of Raetia on January the 7th. You might choose the only female St Valentine, St Valentina, martyred in Palestine on July the 25th, 308. And the Eastern Orthodox Church officially celebrates St Valentine twice, once as an elder of the Church on July the 6th, and once again as a martyr on July the 30th. I hope that isn't too confusing. The important thing, of course, is that we celebrate love. Our problem is that love is a very vague word. I love my wife, I love coffee and cake, and I love my new shoes. The word can mean so many different things. Other languages do much better than English. You may know that the Old Testament was written in Hebrew and the New Testament was written in Greek. And in both languages, they have at least 3 different words we translate into English as love. In Greek, there is the love called eros, where we get our word erotic, which is fairly self-explanatory. Then there is love called philios, literally brotherly love, like you have for members of your family or close friends. And there is the love called agape, which is love that doesn't ask anything in return, unconditional love that serves and genuinely wants the best for others. Each is appropriate in different situations, and maybe in the very best relationship, all 3 sorts of love come together. In our reading earlier, St. Paul says that love is the essential ingredient in our behaviour. Love is patient, he says. Love is kind. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love is always there, part of everything, or at least it should be. It's like if we make bread but leave out the flour, it will not be bread. Everything we do should be coloured and lifted and filled and blessed by our love. But love has a cost. It takes courage to love in this way because it is risky. Loving makes us vulnerable. Love can be rejected, and that hurts. Jesus' love was rejected by many and still is. But rejection does not mean we are wrong. Love never ends, and so it can be received again later. Think of your own life and those who have given you love, or you have given love to. It may have taken years for that love to be received by you or others, but it was not wasted. Love can never be wasted. Indeed, the more you give it away, the more you have. It is the currency of eternity. And giving love takes time. Indeed, it is often about spending time with those you love and who love you. love never ends. It is infinite, and we keep growing into it. We may never achieve loving perfectly, but we can always improve. When Paul speaks of putting the ways of childhood behind, he is not speaking about our physical age, but of how we think, how we love. It is a risky business, this loving. Part of the risk is that we only know in part. But when we trust Christ, we believe that when we meet God face to face, we will understand fully, even as we are fully known. Which brings us back to Lent, starting this week. During Lent, we are invited to remember Jesus' 40 days in the wilderness, finding his way in God's love. For him, it meant looking forward and accepting that his love would lead to the cross on Good Friday and then Easter. For us, Lent is about waiting. It is about having the courage to wait. Waiting is so difficult because it is the one thing we cannot do quickly. Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness. We need our time of Lent as well. Perhaps we can't manage the full 40, but we do need time every day to be still and rest in God's love. There are no hard and fast rules in Lent, but we all need to spend time with those we love and who love us. And this includes time with God, time every day. Perhaps you can have a special chair or corner or somewhere to light a candle, or put on a gentle CD, or listen to St. Peter's thought for the day, or read a short passage from the Bible or prayer book. Be still and know. Celebrate. Look back and look forward. Count your blessings. If you do just one thing this Lent, spend time in God's love. Amen.